kind of presentation, and then obviously any Q&A. These always go better as a bit of a dialogue, so feel free to just kind of dive in with any questions. Before we get started, are there any brave souls that want to introduce themselves and maybe share their organization and maybe what's got them interested in the presentation today?
Anybody out there want to share?
Always tricky with a large audience, I get it. All right. Well, we have. All right, so I will go ahead and share my screen here, and we will dive right in. Taylor, can you see my screen there?
Yes.
Okay, very good, very good. Again, our company's Response Technologies in Cincinnati, Ohio. We essentially, what we do is we do emergency notification systems. So we deliver essential critical information to people that need to know in the matter of seconds. And really, if you take nothing else away, remember that we are that communication platform that's going to deliver critical information in critical situations directly to the people that need to know. So,
Matt, do you want to make that full screen?
Oh, yep, I sure can.
Just so it might make it a little bigger for folks to see.
Yep, absolutely. Bear with me here. I usually keep it out of that when we're just hopping around, but for this, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've been around for about 20 years. We got our start, interestingly enough, in law enforcement, really. We were spun out of a company called StopStick, who's also actually located in Cincinnati. Completely different than sort of emergency communication, but essentially they are the tire deflation device that police throw on the road to flatten tires of a bad guy in a high-speed pursuit. In that specific kind of market, they've got a really high market share. So a great relationship with law enforcement. They basically said, hey, can you guys do other things? So we started kind of playing around with some different solutions for them. Mobile alarming became a big one. So we'd have these devices that are in sort of a Pelican case. We will put them out at a site of a repeat break-in or potentially a kind of domestic violence case situation like that. So we had kind of that, and that's kind of how we got our start. From there, we kind of went into courthouses. So the solution in courthouses 20 years ago was that a judge might press their panic button. It would be wired. It'd be wired back to a central kind of unit. So once the button's pressed, it's going to dial a monitoring company. Monitoring is just going to call dispatch and tell them, hey, there's an issue across the hall. So we cut out all that stuff in the middle, and essentially now when a button's pressed, we're going to send that alert directly to the bailiff's radio right across the hallway, and we do so in about 2 seconds. So that ability to send that direct notification to police cuts out several seconds, several minutes rather. So along the lines, we grew from courts into hospitals, into schools. Sadly enough, essentially every place of business that's got a decent size populace needs some sort of plan to enact in the event of, worst of a worst situation. And then again, our platform is, kind of custom built to deliver that communication to help facilitate that plan. So while growing around kind of vertical markets based on demand, again, sadly enough, we also grew sort of the service offerings that we're able to stand up on our system. So we talked about panic button already, and that's kind of the core, and that is still most of what we do. But we also do gunshot detection. Door monitoring has been extremely popular. I'm sure everyone recalls the tragic event in Uvalde, Texas, where the door was locked or unlocked or propped or not propped, and they kept waffling. But essentially, your doors are your most simple, basic first line defense. those have to be protected. And when they're open, you need to be told about it. So kind of that's what that is. Environmental monitoring is another thing, temperature, humidity, things of that sort, ammonia even. And general intrusion stuff, which is, your basic motion, both indoor, both outdoor with, laser beams, tripwires, all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, your integration. So able to integrate into many other of IPS's offerings, their access control, their camera offerings, all of that stuff. So what was once just a kind of simple panic button system is now kind of an all-encompassing communication platform. Essentially, if there is a sensor for it, we can deliver the output. So real quickly, we'll talk about kind of the basics of how the system works. So if you think about it, in IPS, they're the fire experts, but it's not too much unlike that, where you have inputs and you have outputs. So on the input side, you've got a variety of things. You could have a simple panic button. You could have a gunshot sensor there in the top left. You could have a door contact, smoke, temperature, any of the above. So you can have any of those inputs. Once that's pressed, it's going to send a wireless transmission back to the head unit. The head unit is the box you see there in the middle. Within that box and through the web-based portal, we will already have set up, when the button's pressed, who's going to get the message, what the message will say, and then what output is it going to come across. And by output, I mean, is it going to come across radio, email, text? PC alert is our network-based alarm there. So let me make sure my radio is on here, and I'll show you a quick example.
Police assistance needed in room 101. Gary Smith. Police assistance needed in room.
So Taylor, did that come across the screen there? Okay, very good. So essentially, you saw a couple things there. You heard the radio, and radio is really kind of that key output. So especially in the case of public situations, so cities, courts, schools, assuming they're a public school system, we're going to send that alert directly to radio. Radio is how law enforcement communicate. That is their lifeline of communication. So for us to meet them there at their point of communication is really key. And we're able to do so in 2 seconds. In these situations, time is everything. The other alert that you saw pop up on the monitor there was called PC Alert. PC Alert is a kind of an application that you will load on any PC. Great way to communicate to the people in the situation how to react. There's also email, text message on my cell phone, or other also kind of common forms. So, really in those situations, you really need to notify, you need to really 2 things, and they're equal importance. You need to tell the good guys as quickly as possible, and you need to tell the people in the situation how to react to that as quickly as possible, because no matter how quickly we tell the good guys, there will be some period of time where the people kind of on the ground floor need to enact their plan. They're going to need to, whether it's run, hide, fight, they're going to need to evacuate the building. They're going to need to do different things based upon the emergency and your planning and what they're told to do. So those 2 things are really of equal importance. So we need to be able to have a very diverse set of communication outputs there. Taylor, it looks like we may have had a question.
Yep. Let me hop off my mic here. Joe, do you have a question? Joe's with IPS.
Okay.
Yeah, so with these, you said these go to radio, or from that to a radio. Now, are they running like an 800 megahertz frequency, or are they pre-programmed per radio, or how's that work?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the buttons themselves travel 900 megahertz back to the head unit. We use Innovonics as the OEM for the buttons that we use. So once these buttons, once the signal hits the head unit, our head unit essentially keys up the radio. And at that point, we are radio agnostic. So what we do is we will literally hang a mated radio inside the box. So if you're talking across, let's just say Hamilton County radio, they've got a huge trunk system. Doesn't matter if it's digital, if it's analog, we hang the radio, we tune it to the right channel that we want to broadcast across, and then our system essentially keys up that radio and sends that communication just like a law enforcement personnel would key up their partner.
Are they pretty encrypted, or is this something the trunk tracker can find?
So you want to get buy-in. You need approval. We would need approval. We would work with you guys and the end user. Hey, here's what we're doing. Here's how we're doing it. In public entities, 99% of the time, because they're all funded from the same person eventually, it's not a problem. It can be a little tricky when it is a private entity, whether it's a place of business, whether it's a, private school, whatever the case is. Those conversations can be a little bit different, but there are other options. So we can go, again, in schools, ideally we want to go to an SRO channel, as well as kind of a main channel, because hitting the feet on the street, if they're scanning for an SRO channel, that's all the faster that they can be there in emergency. We also so that would be ideal. Courthouse, obviously, we want to go to the bailiff because they are right there. The fallback to that, if they don't want their teams that are live and in the field to get an automated message delivered from our system, then we can hit dispatch radio. So that's a popular fallback. We go straight to dispatch radio, still in about 2 seconds. Dispatch then will have a protocol. They'll take the notification, then they'll actually dispatch their resource based on what the emergency is. And then the fallback from that is we do have capability to dial. So the final kind of fallback is we would dial a direct backdoor number into the local jurisdiction.
I guess my main question is I'm in the fire service, and I know I can get like any channel I want broadcasted on my scanner. So I'm thinking that if I was somebody that wanted to plan a mass shooting or something, I would have that frequency pretty much tried to dial in before I did that. Is that possible with this system?
So you could, so if you've got a scanner, I guess in theory, you could find any channel you want. It really would depend what channel that we're programmed to broadcast across. So if that was somebody's intention, they'd have to know what channel we're broadcasting across.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's we've got some kind of some private entities too, that actually, you speak of fire, that actually are dialing Hamilton County dispatch in the event of a fire, actually on top of as an extra kind of more rich data, more rich information than your standard kind of at least the fire system that they had. So again, it can be all customized, mix and match. It's really what are your unique challenges type of thing, and how can we custom build these or custom build your system to kind of create that for you. Any other questions while we're at a kind of a little pause here?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay, very good. We will keep on trucking. So a little more on the sensors themselves. I talked briefly about how they are in Avonics and they run on 900 megahertz. One thing that does get brought up is, well, they're wireless. And in today's age, most technologies are wireless, but there are still people that are a little skeptical. The reality is that while being wireless, we still monitor these sensors. So things such as low battery, low signal, no signal, any kind of trouble alarms, our system monitors for. So we're able to tell the end user, tell IPS who may be managing the system for you, if there is an issue with any of the sensors. And the good thing about the outputs is while, let's say, a panic button's pressed, we're going to the school resource officer. A low battery on a panic button, we certainly do not want to send to a school resource officer. We don't want to bother them with that. That may be something though, but we program to email IT or maintenance or operations. So we can, even though it's the same sensor, we can still create a different communication output for a different reason on that signal. That's always a nice feature to have there. And, battery life, couple years, it's gonna really boil down to usage is gonna be the main driver of that. But if it's just sitting, essentially, it's with, little usage, it's gonna be a couple years. The application there that you see on the right is called PC Duress. So this is another application that you load on your computer, and essentially it turns your computer into a panic button. So if you were to hit Control-Alt-Z, for example, that could send an alert. All the same outputs apply. We can still drive radio. We can still drive email, text, PC alert, all those same outputs. Really good in like in an office setting, where employees are in front of computers. Think front office, greeter, someone that may be that first kind of person that you see when you come in. And if you were to turn around and hit a button or reach under your desk and hit a button, they may see something versus just hitting a hotkey or clicking on your desktop. And again, it will trigger the alarm. The other nice benefit with PC Duress is it is a very cost-effective way to span a really large geography. And the reason is that we actually leverage the customer's network to get everything back to the head unit. So there's no additional hardware required. So if you've got a school district that's got 25 schools in one district, with between elementary, middle, high school, all that stuff, you could cover them all with PC Duress and no other hardware besides the head unit. So very cost effective to span kind of a large geography. So just something to keep in mind there. So the other way that we would span a large geography is through our Centurion Gateway or Centurion Envoy, depending on the situation. So essentially both devices act as that. So they've got two jobs really. At the remote school, so using this example I gave you just a second ago with PC Duress, let's say there are 25 schools in the district, but let's say instead of wanting to use the keyboard activation, you wanted to use physical buttons. So to do that, you need a receiver at each of the 24 other sites. So buttons pressed, it's going to hit this gateway device. This gateway is going to receive the signal from this button. It's going to send it over the network back to the head unit, where we will have pre-programmed the output and who's going to get it and what the message is going to say. Now, if this device is at the elementary school, we'll say panic button activated elementary school lobby. If it's at the high school, it'll say high school lobby. So we set everything up. We pre-configure everything to be location specific based on where it's at. So responders know exactly where to go. You can even localize alerts. So if there's an activation that happens at the high school, you could tell high school SRO, you could tell leadership at the high school, you could tell all teachers at the high school, but you maybe don't have to tell the elementary school that may be 20 miles away, something like that. So again, you can mix and match and customize, all the outputs based on your guys' needs. So we did talk about some of the communication outputs already, but just to kind of reinforce these, radio is really kind of the core of what we do. It is the most unique output. It's possible for other folks to do it through various integrations, but there's really no one else that does it how we do it. And it's a very simple thing. We literally plug it in and our system commands it and keys it up just as if a fellow law enforcement officer was keying up their radio. Phones, again, we can dial. That's kind of a final fallback because we don't want to dial. We want to send direct. If we dial, there's time to key up the phone line, time to ring on the other end, and all those things. So we want to, direct radio 2 seconds, email, text 2 seconds. One thing to note too on the email and the text message, the SMS is a true SMS. It's not a relay, which means it's going to be there in 2 seconds. Again, message boards, PA systems, cameras, access control, fully integration with all the other things that IPS does, because we are a key part of a security solution, but we are not the only thing, right? It's going to be a layered approach with a multitude of different offerings, all customized and blended together to deliver on what you guys need based on what your challenges are. And then lastly, PC Alert, that's the take over the computer screen notification. Again, great way to communicate to the people in the situation so they can then enact their plan. So this device here, Centurion Anywhere, this is our one of our newest offerings. This is so while we've kind of specialized in this panic button space, this is a GPS panic button. So the way this works is this pairs to your cell phone through Bluetooth. And when the button's pressed, the email text message that comes across will give you an exact GPS location here. So I'm going to go ahead and activate. So this button here was paired to my cell phone, and you probably can't see this, but there's an app that you download that allows you to pair these together. And then when that button's pressed, this phone uses the cell signal to send to our instance in the cloud. Once it gets that, it grabs the GPS information, sends it back down to our system that will be on site at your facility. Then we take that and we deliver it to all the same folks that whoever you want to receive it. So again, could be law enforcement, could be a variety of different people. It's been so let me see if I can back out of this here and show you. So here's my email, came across here, link, click the link, and it's going to pull up, and here I sit in Westchester, Ohio. So if I were to move, this will update every couple seconds. So if I started sprinting down Allen Road, it would show me kind of heading towards this Holiday Inn here as an example. It's been really interesting. The device has been, again, it's been out for probably 18 months, been very well received. Initially, the expectation was people on the go. So think about home health, social workers are two really big ones. Any type of lone worker in kind of the energy space, any folks in this kind of gig economy, if you will, where people are constantly out and about. Great application. But what we found is because of the price point and because of what it does, we found some of the biggest, receivers of this are really customers that want to treat it as fixed, but they want to give one to every single employee. So we've had conversations with counties and cities across the United States about, hey, we've got 1,000 lone workers across the city of Cincinnati, for example, and they have no protection. They're out on an island by themselves. Let's give them a device like that for a very low price, and now they've got a way to communicate. Or I'm a school and I've got 3,000 teachers, staff, and employees. We want to allow and enable everybody to have eyes and ears out there. And we want to allow them give them a way to communicate if they see something. So it's been a very cost-effective way to put a button in the hands of every single person, because everybody does have a cell phone, obviously. It does need to be an iPhone or of an Android operating system. So like if there's any flip phones out there still, it will not work. But again, great way to scale a really big, audience, a really big community of folks. And again, this kind of just shows how it happens, hits this in the cloud, and then, spits it out on the cell phone. Here's the text version that you can probably see a little bit better than looking at my phone. And then the link comes across, you click the link and it pulls you up and shows where you're at on a map. On the app itself, and again, you probably can't see us, but once it's activated, it's in an activation state. And then it'll have a red bar that says clear emergency. So I'll hit that and I will clear the emergency. So now I'm just. So I've just got that all clear program to go over the radio as well. It's also going to come up email, text. Again, you can customize all those different outputs depending on what you want to see. One thing of note is that the location is fixed for the audio portion. So if you notice the first transmission, when I pressed the button, it said match GPS button has been activated. Please check text and email for location details. So we have a lot of these actually issued out with counties across the United States for domestic violence victims and survivors. So they hand these out to somebody who's been threatened or has been kind of repeatedly victimized. So they'll have one of these. That message will come straight to dispatch radio, and then it's going to, again, they'll transfer over, check the email to see where the location is, and then dispatch will then dispatch the right resource, their case officer, their detective assigned to them, all that stuff based on the location. So this device here is another kind of mobile alarming, if you will. So law enforcement uses these, construction sites, companies that have really large, wide, over many acres, kind of as a campus that may be of like an oil or energy or something like that, where they've got specific places that they want to doubly protect on site. Basically a mobile alarm in the box. It's actually basically has a gateway inside of that. That gateway will talk back to the head unit. And then again, the sensors hit that box. That box will send the alert over the network, over a cellular network this time because it's mobile, back to the head unit, and then all the same outputs apply. So again, construction sites, energy facilities, oil, places with massive outdoor campuses, and then extreme cases of domestic violence, repeat break-ins. So CPD's got many of these units, as well as other, cities across the country. So just kind of a little kind of pause, if you will, in the middle, and just it's really, again, this is a customized solution. So I won't read all these to you, but as you kind of browse through, it's really, what are you planning for? If an active shooter or if something happens, what is your response? What is it that you initiate? How do you tell them? What do you tell them? All those things. So, these are all up here rhetorically for the purpose of this presentation, but these are things that everyone should be thinking about. Certainly if you're a public facility, if you're a school, a healthcare organization, or if you are a organization that's got, pretty sized, decent staff, where you have people that you need to protect and have a plan in place to do so. It starts with the plan. Having a plan is step one with this. Step two is, all right, how do we communicate this and how do we set this system up to facilitate the communication of our plan? And then obviously you pair it with, you know, your access control and cameras, which most people have, but now you've got this, you know, really robust, you know, kind of customized kind of platform there for you. So I'll take a pause here and see, are there any questions at this point, and then kind of ask how we're doing on time as well, Taylor.
So far, no questions in the chat. And then as long as I told folks an hour, 10 to 11. So if
Okay.
you have a little bit more to go through, you've got the time.
Okay.
And if
Very
anyone
good.
needs to jump off, feel free. We totally understand, and we'll be sending the recording out.
Yep. And if there's any questions, just shout them out.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the kind of the first half of the presentation is more of a how it works, if you will, that sort of thing. Kind of these next few slides here, we'll just kind of talk about some common solutions that we see out there of what other customers are doing, as this could be helpful to you guys just to kind of get your kind of you know, ideas kind of generating there. So active shooter, right? In this category is kind of the main concern, really. It's the worst of the worst. Somebody comes in, whether it's a school, place of business, a hospital. Are you prepared? Do you have the plan? Do you have the right technology in place to tell somebody? These events typically don't end until police end them, or they end it themselves. They end it themselves when the police arrive. So bottom line is we need to get the good guys there as soon as possible. And we can do that through a couple different ways. And here's just a quick video of the gunshot detection system. So shots fired. And then it's going to trigger. So that was just a testing video just to kind of see, you know, really kind of behind the scenes. That's a local school here in the tri-state area. But that was a test pistol there that shoots at basically a 22 millimeter, almost, it shoots an 8 millimeter blank, but it's kind of the equivalent discharge of a 22. So kind of the lowest really ammunition that could be used. But essentially the way that it works is it works off of air pressure and sound. So as the bullet, you know, goes through the air, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but as the bullet goes through the air, it's going to kind of create that air pressure change. So the sensor reads that spike in air pressure followed by the sound. Those two events have to happen within 1/16 of a second of each other. If they do, sensor says, hey, that's a gunshot. And then it tells our system, and then our system sends the communication out. Again, for gunshot, you definitely want radio, email, text, PC alert. It's really interesting. When we started doing testing on this device, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, I immediately thought, well, if a gunshot happens in the facility, certainly everyone's going to hear it. You know, hearing gunshots many times. But the reality is we did our testing, and even just over in our production area, you could barely hear really anything. And it was really nondescript. Like you couldn't tell what it was. There was a noise, you heard something, but you certainly could not tell that it was a gunshot. So communicating that to everybody at the facility is of critical importance. So then they can take cover, run, hide, fight. Again, whatever your protocol is, immediately, and immediately tell the good guys. The other thing too with that is there is gunshot detection that we offer, but that's only good if someone actually fires a shot. If they brandish a gun, or they have a gun, or they have a knife or something like that. That is where the panic button comes in. Panic button is you know, definitely of equal importance if not more, because it can be used for many different things. But same concept applies. And that's why we consider part of that solution, is because if you just see it, you press the button, you can tell everybody. Really, it's why schools are now giving a device like this, putting it in the hands of every teacher, almost really decentralizing and getting as many eyes and ears with the ability to trigger something out there as possible. Because if you increase that, you're going to increase the likelihood that if something happens, somebody's going to see them before it happens. And every one of these, tragic events at all these schools over the past 5 years, they've been seen before walking in. Folks just weren't trained, didn't act on triggering any notification. They didn't have a way to do it. All these things add up. So extremely important. So we talked a little bit about the door thing, like way at the beginning of the presentation, but doors really kind of came to light after the event in Texas last year. Doors are your most basic line of defense. The door should be shut, the door should be locked, all those things. If they are not, we can tell you. So if the door is propped open for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever your criteria is, we can tell you about it. We're doing a lot of big projects now where folks are, hey, we've got access control in these main key areas where people come and go, but we've got 500 doors across our facility where people are constantly going in and out all day long, and they need to be shut every single time, because that's a huge, access point for a bad guy to get in. So we're going to tell you when they're propped. You can put it on different scheduling as well. So for example, 8 to 3, if people can come and go in and out as they please, they just can't prop the door. But after 3, let's say you should not be accessing that door. So 8 to 3, we won't tell you if it opens or closes. After 3, we'll tell you anytime it opens. So varying levels of customization as well, even within one sensor on one door. And you can do that down to, so if you've got 500 doors, in theory, you could have 500 different, customizations. So the kind of integrate facility stuff I mentioned before, we integrate into, fire panels to just send more rich data, more rich information at times. We've got some installations where actually we've got a device that is essentially a dry contact. So it's a switch, and when something else gets triggered, we close the relay on this device and we send the alert. So we are using it to monitor things such as manufacturing equipment, other sensors. So we've got customers that have, for example, an ammonia sensor that's in place. When that triggers, it doesn't tell anybody, or it may go to one small set of people. The customer said, well, we want to tell everybody because ammonia will kill you very quickly if it gets out and where it's at. So we've got plans in place for where people need to go evacuate in the event that the ammonia leaks. So we put this little device and we plugged it into the relay output of the system. And when there's a leak, now we're telling everybody. We're telling everybody over their computer. So, the 500 folks that work in the facility that are behind computers, or if they're out, in different areas of the plant, we're able to tell them a number of different ways. We've also done the same thing with weather. So there's weather radios that tell you when you're within certain ranges of the storm. We can wire up these contact closures for any number of scenarios. So the storm's within 10 miles, there's an output that's going to happen. We can tell that. If the storm is within 2 miles, the message is take cover immediately because it's right on top of you type thing. So there's different things that we can do, simply just wiring in a dry contact device. And again, for that, we're just the delivery of information to the right people so then they can react. Along similar lines, once the head unit's in, so the head unit is most of your cost. But popular bolt-ons like schools, a temperature sensor is a simple bolt-on to throw in your IT closet. Believe it or not, freezers is a very popular bolt-on into schools. A lot of our school customers will tell us that a freezer is their least reliable piece of equipment in the entire building. So we have many times, saved food from going bad, like over a weekend, they've gotten an alert that says, hey, the temperature has risen above 38 degrees. You better go fix the freezer type of thing. So they can do that. And again, the cost of these sensors are very, very little. Your investment is in the head unit. So this is more of a matter of taking your investment that you have a pressing need for now, and then just bolting onto it, with a different and unique sensor. So from each one, so each head unit has a web-based portal that you can control everything. So you can control this if you've got a system at your facility and you're working from home, you can still manage and control it. IPS can log in, manage and control it from their site, from their facility. So through that portal, you can create kind of custom on-the-fly special announcements. So things as simple as, there's a foot of snow coming, campus is going to be closing at 12 p.m. Just simple things like that. Just one extra little thing that we're able to do out of the head unit of the system. So again, just kind of a wrap-up slide. I won't read all this to you here, but again, really it's, understanding what your needs are, getting a plan in place. And then again, where we can help along with IPS is kind of helping you create this customized, communication output that's going to, drive that communication and really facilitate your plan. So with that, I will kick it over to Taylor to wrap us up, unless there's any questions, of course.
Yeah, does anyone have any final questions? Check the chat. Don't see anything in the chat.
Okay.
So with that, if there are no questions right now, I just want to thank everyone for joining us. I will be following up with all of our customers who have attended via email. Again, I will be sending your thank you gift cards, and that'll be in a separate email. And then from me directly, you will receive a link to the recording of the presentation in case you want to go back and review anything or send it to a coworker. And then I'll be sure to include some more information on the Response Technologies product line as well. And if you have any questions or want to move forward, get a quote, get a demo at your site, anything like that, feel free to let me know, or do also reach out to your IPS account rep. And with that, I just want to thank everyone for joining us and wish you all a good rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks, Taylor. Thanks,
all right,
everybody.
thank you, everyone. Bye.